Hi, I'm Lauren Brown, and I'm here with Joyce Keys, one of the board members of Standish Humane Society, and we're going to talk about socialization of kittens. We're in the kitten room at Standish Humane. I'll just pan around so you can see some of the cuties, and we'll get closer there in a minute. Um, Joyce, why are we in a kitten room at Standish Humane rather than in a foster home with some of these guys?
We have some kittens that come into our animal shelter, specifically into our kitten room for socialization, additional socialization. So sometimes these kittens are in a foster home and the foster home feels that they need more socialization than they're able to provide to them in their home. They come in here, they're isolated in this room, away from other cats that are older and might have already had their immunizations, because their immunization system, their immune system, I should say, might be a little bit more susceptible. So we're very careful to keep them isolated. We also bring them in if they are abandoned and don't have a mommy. So if we don't have a foster home available or they need more socialization, they might be a little bit older than some of the other kittens that we find. So they need a little bit more socialization. More people come into the shelter than could possibly come into someone's home. So sometimes it gives them a more opportunity to be held and spoken to and hand fed.
Can you tell me what the first steps are once we get these kittens into the shelter? What do we do for them first?
First steps for the kittens that come into our kitten socialization room are usually to isolate the kittens into a small crate or junior cage, which you're seeing here. These are small cages which can fit their food, the animal, and their cat litter. And we utilize these cages to assess their socialization skills at this point, to assess their food intake. We also helps keep them to make them feel safe. So we keep them in a small enclosed cage while we're talking to them, while we begin to assess them, and so we can begin touching.
So after they're settled, what is the next step in their socialization?
The next step in their socialization, after we've isolated them and assessed them initially, would be to open their cages and start to have them smell hands, to start to see if we can approach the kitten without it hissing. And if it does hiss, we're just going to keep repeating that socialization skill until we've got them where we can actually either touch them, we can actually touch them maybe under their chin, we can actually just make them feel safe. And then after that, we're going to move towards scruffing and pulling them out of the cage onto a towel, something that's going to avoid the volunteer getting scratched and help the kitten feel safe.
This is Peggy Sue. She is about a 6-week-old kitten that came from a barn. Her mom was an outdoor kitty, and she's definitely still a little scared of us. She's been here for about a week now. At the moment, she's not hissing, but she's going to start.
Come on, baby. Hey, sweetheart. Hi. So I first approach the kitten by letting her smell me, sometimes going under their chin, touching their cheeks, just letting her know I'm here so she's not startled. And then I'm going to reach in and I'm going to scruff her. By scruffing, I'm going to grab her by the nape. It's okay. So I've got my thumb on one side and my fingers on the other of her nape, which makes her feel a little bit safer as I retrieve her from the cage. I'm going to have a towel on my lap so that she feels a little bit safer. I'm going to wrap her in this just a little bit, keeping hold of her the whole time. And then I'm just going to start to caress her and make her feel a little bit safer. I like to rub their ears and their cheeks until you feel her body sort of relax on you. This is going to take a couple minutes. I talk to her. Hi, baby. Hi, sweet girl. It's okay. It's okay. After I feel that she's calmed down a little and I feel like she's relaxing, I'm going to have a spoon with some wet food on it, and I'm going to offer that to her to see if she will eat from us. We don't want to provide food in the cage because we want the food to be associated with coming from a human. And that's one of the ways that she's going to start to trust us.
What would you do if she didn't like the food that you were giving her? Would you just go try a different type?
We would not try a different type of food if the cat wasn't eating the food that I offered to her. It may be that she's too scared to eat right now. It may be that she's not hungry and someone previously fed her, which would be on the notes, which we'll discuss later in the video. But we definitely don't want to go get a different food and different type of food or a different brand of food to see if she would like that. The reason for that would be because A, it may be that we have them on a special diet. B, it might be that if it's not documented, that she may be having something that would upset her belly. She may develop vomiting or diarrhea. So we want to be very careful about not interchanging foods. And we definitely don't want to do anything without documenting it or discussing it with the medical personnel at the shelter or the director of the shelter.
A minute ago, Joyce was talking about the documentation that we have for the kitten rooms. So this is the new documentation that we are thinking about using. As you can see, we have information at the top of the sheet that talks about who the cat is, their sex, their date of birth, how old they are, and any special needs that they have, including, if they have a favorite toy. Over here is a key for illness. And then on the top right, there is their food, how much they're getting per feeding, both wet and dry. So this should be your go-to for cats in the kitten room for who's getting how much food. So then the daily notes are a little bit different. We tried streamlining it a bit. So you can see we wrote notes for yesterday, morning and evening, and this morning. So you write the time of day, if they ate their wet, if they ate their dry, and how much they ate of it. Did they have urine? Did they have a poop? Were they playing? And was any illness noted? So again, going back to the key, you can see that yesterday evening she sneezed. So she sneezed one time and we told Julia about it. But then this morning we noticed that there was diarrhea in the litter box. And then I wrote a note that they found a Friskies can in the room and there was a possible diet change. So this would be something we would just continue to look into. So these sheets are a bit of a departure from what is currently used. And if you consider it more of a cat's medical record or the cat's chart, each cat will have their own individual record. I know it's a little bit different than the room having notes, so each cat would have their own special notation. That way we know a little bit more about who is eating well and who isn't eating well, and it's more important on these guys as we're socializing and we're wanting to know who is eating off of the spoon and how they're doing and how well they're doing while eating that, and making sure that they are all eating. We have to keep it very separate, and it's too much to do it on a group documentation.